The second half of the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, called the Indigo Disk, is almost here. And in today's video, I'm going to show you guys everything you need to do before it releases to make sure that you are 100% ready for this brand new Pokemon adventure. We have a ton to talk about, so let's get started. Alright, now this may sound really obvious, but the very first thing you want to make sure you have done is that you beat the entire main story for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So we do know there are those three main storylines. You have Victory Road, Path of Legends, and Starfall Street. So you want to make sure you have all of those beaten. Now, we don't know for sure if you have to have those beaten in order to go into the Indigo Disk, but we do know for a fact the Indigo Disk is going to have some pretty high-level Pokemon. So you want to make sure you have the main game beaten, just so you have the ability to have your Pokemon in top fighting shape. Additionally, you want to make sure you have all that mobility with your dragon, be it either Miraidon or Koraidon. You don't want to get stuck in some random spot and not able to progress. So pretty much just make sure you get the storyline done. Pretty much everybody already is there anyway, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. You also want to make sure you have the post-game storyline done as well. All the time travel stuff, spoilers I guess. And you want to make sure you have your dragon as well caught, because we don't know if that's going to be a requirement for the story. Now, even though we don't know at which point you can actually enter this portion of the DLC, we do know for a fact a lot of the DLC is going to take place in Area 0, so it does stand to reason that there would be that requirement that you need to have everything done before you can actually progress to this point in the story. Now, in addition to beating the main base game, you're also going to want to go ahead and complete the Teal Mask. If you're buying the DLC for the Indigo Mask, it's likely you're going to have this one also, and it's really not that long to just go through and finish it, so I would recommend going through it, beating all the challenges, finishing that portion of the story, just in case it is a prerequisite, because, again, not to drop any spoilers, there are some elements of the Teal Mask that do say they're going to be continued in the Indigo Disk, and I don't want anybody to be surprised when they just jump into the Indigo Disk and they find out they can't progress because they haven't beaten the Teal Mask yet. So go ahead, get that taken care of, and you'll be thanking yourself later. But now, even though we're going to finish the Teal Mask, there are a couple things you need to make sure that you get within the DLC. First up, you want to go ahead and head over to Ogre Ousting and beat level 10 so you can get yourself a shiny Munchlax. This is obviously not a requirement for anything and is not going to really help your team, but I know the way I think, and if I go ahead and hop into the new DLC, I'm going to totally forget this is a thing, and I don't want to miss you guys getting your chance to get a free shiny for very little effort. Now, once you've beaten the Teal Mask, you get yourself your shiny, go ahead and level up your team as close as you can get to level 100. Again, the Pokemon in the Indigo Disk are going to be really tough, and you want to make sure you can handle them appropriately. With all the experience candies we get from raids and all that good stuff, it's really not that hard to level your mons up pretty high. You know, even if you get them to like 80, 90, you should be okay. But you do want to get your Pokemon as strong as possible because, frankly, you're going to need it. Now, another thing you are going to want to do is go ahead and complete your Pokedex for the Paldea region and for Kitakami. Now, look, I understand this sounds like a massive undertaking, but honestly, as long as you have the majority of the Paldean Dex completed, it's really not that bad. Just by playing through the game and collecting all the Pokemon you normally would catch, you're going to have a lot of those Pokemon already. So catching the remaining 50 or so really isn't that tough. And the other good thing is there's a lot of crossover between the Paldean Dex and the Kitakami Dex. So let's say you have the Paldean Dex done and you don't have anything else from the Teal Mask, you're probably going to be about halfway done with the Dex already. So it's really not that big of an undertaking. But why do we want to do this? Well, there's a couple different reasons. First of all, when you do complete both those dexes, you are going to get the Shiny Charm and then the Glittering Charm. The Shiny Charm will make Shiny Pokemon show up more often, and the Glittering Charm will help you get Terra Shards more often. Both of these are going to be very important because, as we know, there's going to be a lot of new Pokemon in Teal Mask. We want to go ahead and get those, hopefully shiny, and we're going to be doing some breeding, obviously, so we want those to be shiny as well. But on top of that, getting those Terra Shards, again, very important, so you can go ahead and change your Terra type if you do have a weakness that you need to deal with. And just kind of getting them without really doing a lot more extra work is really quite a little nifty thing to have. We are going to obviously have a Pokedex of some sort in the Indigo Disk, and by having those two Pokedexes completed, we'll already have a lot of that legwork completed, so you're not going to have too much more work to do to go ahead and just finish that off. We don't know what bonus we may get for completing that. It may be something awesome. We may get like a Mark Charm. Who knows? But it could be something really good. And, you know, it's better to not have that task be too huge if you do want to get that benefit. And it is unlikely there's going to be any other requirements tied to that, but you never know. Back in BDSP, you know, you had to get every single Pokemon caught entirely to get Arceus, for example. So it's just one of those weird things that you never know, so you might as well just have it just to be on the safe side. And by the way, speaking of charms, If you go ahead and do that ogre ousting like we talked about before, by doing that you are going to get the experience charm, which means your Pokemon will get more experience from battles. And it's also going to make you getting your Pokemon up to level 100 or, 80, 90-ish, just that much easier. So really, it's, another one of those charms that's going to be a huge help. Just, it's a quality of life type thing. It's going to make your experience overall better, which is never a bad thing. Now, once you finish those big challenges, it's going to be time to stock up on a lot of different items. First and foremost, make sure you get yourself a lot of really cool Pokeballs that you want to put a lot of really awesome Pokemon in. One thing that we do know about the Indigo Disk is that every starter Pokemon from the earlier games is going to be available. So everything from Charmander all the way up through, Rillaboom, Cinderace, we are going to be able to get those within the DLC. Now, assuming they are able to be caught wild, or if they are in some kind of special event type thing, this could be our first opportunity to get Pokemon like Incineroar outside of a normal Pokeball. So it is really cool that you do have Pokeball options coming, hopefully, for all these Pokemon. And it's going to be a good idea to just go ahead and get some nice Pokeballs you want to keep them in that might be, they might look cool on release or might just have a good, aesthetic look to them. And while you're at those shops, also go ahead and stock up on some sandwich ingredients. Again, there are going to be a lot of new Pokemon, which means we're going to have a ton of opportunities for shiny hunting. And having all the ingredients to make your sandwiches to give you bonuses is going to be something you're going to want to just kind of have taken care of. You're not going to want to have to worry about it. Now, that does tie into the next suggestion here, and that does mean you're going to have to get yourself some Herba Mystica to take full advantage of your sandwich bonuses. Now, Herba Mystica can be attained pretty easily in raids. It does take a while to grind, but once you have enough of it, it is definitely worth it. And again, you can make your sandwich use it, and if you don't get the bonus you want, you can always reset your game, so you don't have to use it if you don't want to. But again, there is going to be so much to do in the new part of the DLC, you're not going to want to have to go and farm it all then, so just go ahead, take care of it now. I promise you it's worth it. Now, since you're going to be stocking up on Herba Mystica, go ahead and stock up on your Terra Shards as well. We already talked about why it's good to have the charm to make sure you get a lot of them, but even if you don't have the charm, you can always get them from raids, and it is going to be a huge benefit to have. Again, we already talked about it, but since you're going to have to do the raids to get that Herba Mystica anyways, might as well go ahead and stock up on all the shards. Just make sure you have a nice spread available. Things like fire, water, grass, dark are all incredibly important and give you a lot of very good defensive options in your different battles. Now, no discussion about getting rare items would be complete without talking about the auctions in Porto Marinata. Now, down in that area, there are a lot of key items you can have, and there are also a lot of rare Pokeballs down there that you can bid on as well. It does take a lot of time to get everything and can be a little bit expensive, but it is worth it to get all these items, especially when you get the option to use them. You don't want to have to kind of go back retroactively and try to figure out how to do everything. Now, for example, we most likely are going to be able to get the Unova Genies in the Indigo Disk. Now, in order to change their form, you do have to have the mirror that lets you do that. That is something that you can get at those auctions. So it is something, that's worth investing your time. And again, it's much better to have it, especially now that we have a little bit of a lull. And you're able to take care of it then instead of racing to get it once you get the Pokemon or whatever else you need. There are also really cool items down there like rare Pokeballs, all that good stuff. And being able to get some more of those is also a really cool use of that feature. Now, it is a massive time sink. I'm not going to play that down, but since we have a little bit of time before the DLC releases, take advantage of it, get those items now so you don't have to get them later. Now, we have talked about picking up a lot of different items, and with that, you're going to need to stock up on your cash and your league points. Now, we don't know all the information as far as items that we can get or even outfit options that are going to be available in the DLC, but most likely there are going to be a lot of things that we can spend our money on, so it will be a really good thing if we have money to spend once we get into the Indigo Disk. Stocking up on money and league points now is going to make your journey a lot easier once you start diving into the main story and the nitty-gritty of the disc. Now, as far as talking about some ways to actually farm cash, if you go ahead and do the Ace Tournament at the Academy, that's going to give you about 100 grand in about 5 or 10 minutes, so that's not too bad. As far as league points, if you just go ahead and interact with all the Terra Crystals in the overworld, they'll give you a bunch, and you can repeat that pretty much every day, so that's a decent option. You can also sell some different cooking ingredients, that you pick up, like Pokemon parts. Those will give you league points as well, and that may be another good way for you to get that, because both are pretty much currency, and you can use them for almost anything. In fact, the only thing I think you can't use the league points on is those auctions, so it's really not that big of an issue, and it's really good to stock up on both regardless. And finally, the one thing I cannot recommend enough is go ahead and get your Pokemon home ready to deposit some of your Pokemon into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. As we talked about, there are going to be a ton of new Pokemon deposited into Scarlet and Violet with this update, and it does mean you're going to be able to deposit a lot of your Pokemon, like your legendaries, your starters, stuff like that, into the game. This is a really, really great opportunity to get yourself some shinies in the new game, and on top of that, it'll also help you kind of, frankly, cheat filling up your decks, which is always a good thing too. And, you know, also if you have some really good Dittos and then you have some starters and some new Pokeballs, this does give you a really cool opportunity to get some of your Pokemon in Pokeballs that may have not been available before. But there you go, guys. That is every single thing I think you need to do right now before we go ahead and dive into the Indigo Disk. Now, I am going to make a follow-up to this video talking about all the Pokemon you need to catch and bring with you into the DLC. But for right now, as far as just activities, item collecting, all that good stuff, this is as comprehensive of a list that I could possibly put together, and I hope this makes your DLC experience absolutely amazing. So that being said, guys, if you found the video helpful, or if you just enjoyed hearing me talk for a little while, please go ahead and Giga Impact that like button in the face, and of course consider subscribing, because as we are growing, that stuff really does help us out. So, thanks in advance. But with that being said, everybody, I've been Blaine from Bridge 4 Games. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me. I hope each and every one of you have a happy, epic, awesome, and amazing day, and I'll see you guys in the Indigo Disk. See you around. Bye-bye.